I am going to call to order this Utilities Service Board meeting on February 1st. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting of January 19th. Are there any changes to or questions about the meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Anyone?
Move to approve.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Latrina, can you please call the roll?
Kapler,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Eamon,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Meeting minutes are approved. Next up is the approval of the claims. First, we have standard invoices in the amount of $283,367.82. Are there any questions or concerns about invoices? Yes, Mr. Amon. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. I had a question on the creative graphics. So these, typically get split between the water and wastewater with our standard proportions, which was true for the printing and mailing, but I didn't understand why the one that says 9084 all goes to wastewater.
What, I don't have the claim. This is Brad Schrader. I don't have the claims in front of me. What was the value on that one?
13,155.
Okay, it's not one I can speak
For
to. I'm sorry. There was a
water bill.
one on really high on waste that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's just atypical.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to pull the claim and look. This is Laura Pettit. So I'll double check.
It may have been related to
Okay,
the
thank you.
wastewater or the stormwater project.
Did a separate mailing go out for that?
I don't know that we did or not. I don't think so. We'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, and so staff will get back to us regarding that one claim. At this point, is there a motion to approve the standard invoices?
Move to approve.
All right,
Second.
all right, and Latrina, please call the roll.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Eamon,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up are utility bills in the amount of $118,575.63. Any questions or comments on utility bills? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, and Latrina?
Bannock,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Eamon,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have wire transfers in the amount of $381,211.64. Any questions on wire transfers or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And Latrina?
Eamon,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler.
Yes. All right. Finally, we have customer refunds in the amount of $106.50. Any questions on this particular refund? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And Latrina?
Kepler,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Sherman,
yes,
Parmenter,
Yes.
Burnham,
yes,
Seaman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, number 4, is the approval of the consent agenda. And so I will ask Vic Kelson to step in.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to present the consent agenda for tonight. It totals $48,445. The first item is to Univar Solutions USA. It's $23,940 for bulk shipment of hydrofluorosilicic acid at the water treatment plant. Then Corrosion Technologies, $20,575 to repair the fiberglass sodium hypochlorite tank at Monroe. And then Alts and Witzig Engineering for $3,930, geotechnical services for Wessler related to the Monroe Water Treatment Plant chemical intake project. Does any board member wish to take up any of these items individually? Hearing none, if there's no opposition, these items will be approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Next item is the request for approval of a mutual aid agreement with the Indiana Water Wastewater Agency Response Network. And Chris Wheeler will present this.
Good evening, Chris Wheeler with City Legal. We talked about this project sometime late last year and got permission or authority approval from the board to go forward and enter into this agreement. This is the agreement. So we got the agreement from the state, we reviewed it, we got it approved by the controller and the mayor, and we're presenting it to the board for staff approval and signature. Just a quick refresher, what this agreement is doing is allowing for the utilities, all three of them, to enter into a reciprocal aid agreement with other municipal and public utilities that are in this agreement compact, if you will, so that when any individual utility is faced with an emergency of whatever kind, it can reach out and receive aid through other municipal and public utilities in the form of manpower, vehicular power, supplies, and whatnot. So if we are faced with an emergency, we can do the same thing and reach out and receive assistance and aid from other utilities. If we provide aid to other utilities, we will be reimbursed through a rather detailed level of reimbursement terms and conditions in the agreement. And certainly if other utilities come to our aid, they would then be reimbursed as well. I'm happy to, staff does recommend approval, and I see Vic raising his finger.
There's just one more point about this that I wanted to share, and that is part of the reason that we're bringing this up is that we've been working through risk assessment and risk management planning for the utilities as part of the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018 response. So one of the things that being in a reciprocal organization like INWARN does for us is it reduces our risk in the event of disaster, which is good for the utility. And that's the main reason that we'd like to participate. I also wanted to share that we have on occasion been asked to give assistance to other utilities, and we have done that. We had a circumstance a couple of years ago after the big flood in 2019, the water treatment plant at Brown County State Park was inundated, and they asked, IDEM asked, since we're the closest utility department with a surface water plant, they called us, and we offered assistance. I don't know that we ever actually put anybody on site, but I do know that we did some phone consultation with them.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions that you would like to ask? Anyone? Oh, Mr. Sims.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Kelson. And maybe I missed this, but who makes up this reciprocity agreement? Is there a set number of utilities in certain counties, or so who makes up this group?
Utilities throughout the state are invited to join this organization. I think Chris disappeared for a minute, but utility organizations throughout the state are invited to participate. So it's a voluntary program for utilities in the state of Indiana.
So is it possibly statewide?
I believe so, but
Could be. Okay. No, you don't have to look it up. I was just wondering how wide this net was cast.
Yeah, no, it's a statewide program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, we have Chris Wheeler back.
I apologize. I don't know if the question was being directed to me, Mr. Sims, but I was booted out of the meeting for some reason and I missed your question.
That's okay. I think Vic just felt comfortable and wanted to answer it, so everything's good. No, yeah, he answered it fine. Thank you.
Okay. Well, then if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve this mutual aid agreement with Inwarn?
Yes, move to approve, please.
I'll second.
All right, and Latrina, can you please call the roll?
Bannock,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Eman,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And just a note, Holly posted a link to the list of member organizations in Warren. All right, next item is a request for an approval for an agreement with Van Buren Water, Inc. for wholesale water sales. And Chris Wheeler is also going to speak with us about this.
Thank you. Again, Chris Wheeler with City Legal. And this is our wholesale contract. It is by and large the same exact contract that you always see, with just a few tweaks here and there to fit with the actual wholesale customer. So this is our sale of water to the Van Buren Water distribution system, Van Buren Water, Inc. This particular contract is for 20 years, which is standard in our wholesale agreement, a little bit longer, but the majority of them are 20 years. And it spells out the amount, minimum and maximum gallons of water we would sell next month. Discusses the points of delivery, installation, meter testing that has to be done, and discusses requirements for protection against cross connection and backflow prevention devices and things like that. Staff recommends approval of the agreement, and I'd be happy to try and answer questions that the board might have.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Wheeler? Yes, Mr. Eman.
What is the current usage per month by Van Buren? Approximately on average.
That is a great question. I'm going off memory, and that's dangerous. We did have a lot of discussion by email, and it seems to me that the current usage is somewhere around 20,000 gallons a month. And they're going to have some expansion of their service area to increase it up to around 30,000 gallons a month. So we're still well with, but to adjust the minimum and maximum just a little bit to provide for them.
I think
I
that's
can
20,000.
email and give you more exact. I can
think that's-
find the emails and give you a little more exact number.
That's okay. That's good enough for me. Just wanted to hear that it's between those two numbers. Thank you.
I think it's 20,000 units, Chris.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this agreement with Van Buren Water?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, and Latrina, please call the roll.
Sherman,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Bennett.
Uh,
Thank you. Kepler,
yes,
Eamon.
Yes.
and let's note that Jason gave a thumbs up on that because he was muted. All right.
It would not unmute. Yes.
Yes. Technology. Okay. Next item is a request for an approval of a memorandum of understanding between City of Bloomington Utilities and City of Bloomington Engineering for traffic signal improvements. Jane Fleeg can tell us about this.
Jane Fleeg for the record. This is a memorandum of understanding between CBU and the City of Bloomington Engineering Department for payment of the traffic signal replacement at 3rd and Lincoln. They have wanted to replace that traffic signal for years. It's one of the older controllers in town. We were able to work with them to have them hold off any improvements of theirs at that location because of our upcoming Jordan Culvert project. Back in 2018, we actually signed an MOU with them for the payment of the design of the traffic signal to include in our project. Now this is for payment of the construction of the traffic signal improvements. The estimated amount is $228,000. That was actually an informational price that Milestone provided in their bid documents. So this sets that into motion for them to pay that and any change order prices that may occur because of the traffic signal. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, then is there a motion to approve this memorandum of understanding?
Move to approve.
Second.
And Latrina?
Kepler,
Yes?
Burnham,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Eamon,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Jane. Okay, next item, uncollectible accounts receivable. And Laura Pettit, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, good evening, Laura Pettit from Finance. We have every year as we're closing out our fiscal year, we look to write off uncollectible accounts that are under $40 each and at least 90 days old. Most of them are much older. On the sewer stormwater accounts, we have 905 accounts that we believe are uncollectible for a total of $17,237.66. And the water utility, we have 644 uncollectible water accounts for a total of $9,975.66. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Megan?
Thank you. So Laura, 2 questions. Number 1, could you give just an example or 2 of what an uncollectible account might look like? Like, is it someone who's deceased and they're not there to pay the bill? And then my second question would be, could anyone on this list that gets written off, could they start a new account like next month and
Right.
come back in?
So uncollectible accounts, it could be a deceased person. Generally, it's someone who's moved away and closed their account and has a final balance. It takes us a few days to generate a final bill after someone has shut off their account. And sometimes, especially with our student population, they'll move away and we can't get a hold of them to get the final balance on their account. When someone who has an account that's been written off tries to sign up for new service, we will go back and collect that money from them.
Thank you.
Jim Sherman.
Yeah, I remember in the old days, some utilities used to require deposits. And then when you closed your account out, if they didn't pay or you would use their deposit as part of the payment. I don't know if that still exists with some utilities. Is there any information about that, Laura?
It does still exist. We have discussed having a deposit, and I'm trying to remember why we haven't moved forward with it. It does take a significant amount of administrative time. And I think there was an issue with a deposit. You could only hold it for 90 days and then you have to pay interest on it. Chris, do you remember?
We currently have provisions in our rules and regs that would allow for us to take deposits. We are not actively doing that at the moment. We did look at making the deposit program even more robust. And I think with the pandemic and things that were going on, we opted currently not to try and push that, but we'll revisit it after these pandemic issues have largely subsided and we've recovered economically from this emergency.
Okay, I have one more question, Amanda. When deposits are required for rental properties over 3 months, are you paying interest?
No, we're not, but we're not a utility. So, but actually,
yeah, that's apples and oranges, Jim.
You brought up another question, or you brought up a great question, because I do remember us discussing this in the not so recent past, or in the recent past, I guess I should say, because we were having the discussions about the changes with the legislation and what we were no longer able to do, in particularly with landlords, where utilities could now no longer go after the landlord. And I thought at that point the board had approved staff to institute this. Now, falling back to what Chris said, it may have been the whole COVID thing that things got kind of lost in there or postponed. But I thought we approved going forward with that. Am I wrong?
Any other?
I agree
We
with
discussed it in rules subcommittee, but the deposit program going forward, we hit the pause button again because of COVID consideration.
So back to that, is there I don't know, I know for us, and I'm assuming for most people, the busy time is going to be coming up for July and August of 2021, when we have several rental properties change over in this town. So is there a plan to perhaps get that in place this year, or is it on pause until 2022?
That I don't have an answer for. I apologize. I thought we had talked about revisiting it this spring so it would be in place before the student rush, but kind of with our understanding that we weren't sure what COVID was going to look like. But
And
it's been a while since we've talked about it, so I apologize.
Jason has his hand up. Jason?
Thank you, Jean. So I think we ought to reinvigorate this discussion because I remember exactly what Amanda remembered. I mean, I don't want to put words in the mouth of the board members, but I thought there was a general consensus that this was a good idea. Besides that, I mean, we just, passed this major this major rate increase. And I mean, if there were any COVID considerations, I mean, that didn't enter into that discussion. So I think that's also apples and oranges on the deposits. I, for one, would vote to reinstitute that discussion and come up with a plan.
What I recall was that we were going to work this spring to come up with a plan that we could have in place by next summer. But we don't have that complete at this time. We can certainly start putting something together. When we started looking into it last fall, we discussed it some, and it is a complicated thing to implement. But we'll get something together as quickly as we can.
And Amanda.
And I have a question for Laura too. When you take the two numbers that we are, that we're now writing off this year, we're looking at, close to $32,000. That seems really high from the last couple of years, but I've slept since then as everybody else, but it seems like it's rather high this time.
It seemed in line with last year. Again, I have also slept since then. I'll look those numbers up and get that to the board.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and Jim Sherman.
Yeah, I guess I would say 32,000 in the grand scheme of things with USB, with a CBU, isn't that big a number. And if the cost of instituting it, is going to approach that, then, we have to look at the cost benefits of doing it. I think we should absolutely look at it, but we ought to be careful about just adopting it because some people, cut out on paying their bills.
Thank you. And Jason.
So just doing some quick math. I mean, I don't disagree with Jim necessarily either that, there is a cost benefit to this, but these are all $40 or less, I think I heard said. So that's 800 delinquent accounts if they were all at $40. So I suspect this was somewhere north of that, maybe 1,000 accounts. Whatever. I mean, Laura, you could tell us the number, but to me, that seems like a pretty big number for defaulting.
Yeah, it was 905 wastewater, stormwater accounts and 644 water accounts.
Right. So my point being that, I mean, this isn't, like 5 people that didn't pay their bill. This seems like it's a pretty substantial number. And to the deposit point, Vic, I'm pretty sure that in 1995, when I opened my first water account, you're still holding one of my deposits. So I want you to check on that, please.
And you're right, Jim. We did used to charge deposits. I think it was about 15 years ago, or Jason, I apologize. It was about 15 years ago when I believe CBU stopped collecting deposits.
So
Thanks.
I mean, I didn't realize 1,000 people, 900 something people is a real load of people. I mean, do you think that word spreads around, let's say among the student population that, hey, when you move out of Bloomington, just ignore it because they'll never come get it? I mean, that's a lot of people.
One of the interesting challenges when you have people moving in and out on an annual cycle, if you have a state statute that requires you to pay interest after 9 months, we would end up paying interest on all those deposits for 3 months.
Sure.
In order to save this at the end of that 12 months. So we definitely should look at the cost benefit analysis
Right.
on paying interest on all. Fortunately, the interest rates are probably pretty low, but we would be paying interest on all of the deposits, even the ones for the people who don't just walk away and not pay their last bill. So we'll look into all of that.
And anything over $40 goes to collections on the water side and a lien on the wastewater side. So we do go after delinquent accounts. And
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, well, thank you for that discussion on this topic. So we'll look forward to more information in the near future on that. Is there a motion to approve the write-off of these uncollectible accounts receivable?
This year, move to approve.
Second.
All right, and Latrina, please call the roll.
Bannock,
Yes.
Eamon,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Kepler.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So for this year, that is approved. Now, before we go on to old business, I just want to let the public know that we, at the end of the meeting, will have time for petitions and communications from the public. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can put your comment in the comments section and Holly will read that into our meeting. If you are joining us on Zoom, then please type into the chat that you would like to make public comment at the end, and I will be sure to call on you. Okay, so is there any old business from the board? All right, any old business from staff?
None.
Any new business from the board? New business from staff?
None.
Okay, staff reports, Mr. Kelson.
We have a few transfers and promotions that I'd like to share with you, and a couple of other things, just a number of our employees. First of all, Frank Buselich, who worked in meter service for many years and was a historical expert at CBU, has retired, effective a couple of weeks ago. We also have new hires in T&D that are actually all transfers, but the first is Justin White, who was a line person, is now the new superintendent, assistant superintendent for stormwater, replacing Ed Sherfield, who retired at the end of the year. Tracy Kuntz has transferred from meter reader to a meter service person, and John Matthews has transferred from a laborer to a meter service person. These are some of those last two transfers were all related to the deployment of advanced metering infrastructure as we start repurposing those meter reader positions. Nate Herr over in the environmental group received his underground storage tank certification, Class A and Class B. And then the last one is John Cave at the Monroe Water Treatment Plant, has passed the WT5 exam and is now an operator in training. He's right around his 1 year mark, and he's passed the test already. So we're really happy about that. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vic. All excellent, excellent news. I just discovered that I skipped over our subcommittee reports, and I believe there was a finance subcommittee. So I want to back up, and Jim Sherman, are you reporting on finance?
Yes, so the finance subcommittee met prior to this meeting, and the item on the agenda involved the bonding for our 2021 water rate case. This was part of the cost of service study that was done and how we were going to balance all the payments. There's nothing remarkable about it. It's very similar to previous bonds that we've done. It would be in the neighborhood of $17 million. And I'm not sure there's anything else to say about it. It will, the subcommittee is going to meet again before the next meeting on the 15th of February. And then it will go to the full board at the February 15th regular meeting. And so I don't think there's anything else to say. There was nothing to vote on, but we'll hear about it again on the 15th of February.
Okay, thank you.
Jane?
Yeah.
I believe that meeting will be on the 16th, as the 15th is a federal holiday. So
Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, gotcha.
I just didn't want anybody to be confused.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to petitions and communications from the public. And Holly, are there any comments on Facebook Live?
This is Holly, and just one comment. Tyler Bass was just wondering if the CBU had any comments, or the board had any comments about the Frank Southern Ice Arena remaining closed this winter. So that's not our department, but if anybody had any comments or thoughts on that, they could share them.
Okay, well, and I think that with petitions and communications, we can listen to input from the public as opposed to questions and answers during this time. And because it's not really, we're not overseeing that department. I suppose if CBU does have any comment on that, Vic Kelsick can put out a public comment on that if we have any. So at some point. All right, thank you. And I did not see anybody signaling in the chat on Zoom that they would like to make public comment. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.